Tolino Bambino. What is it all about? Well, to give you a quick catch-up, Tolino is a brand based out of Germany, Austria, and Switzerland since 2013. And since 2017, the device bodies themselves have been developed by the Canadian company Kobo, who are now owned by Rakuten in Japan. So that explains why it looks like a Kobo Sage, because it is, but it's a bit different. As a way to differentiate themselves, they got rid of the note-taking layer, but the device itself still has an 8-inch 300 ppi screen with a front light and warm light and 32 gigs onboard storage. They state several times around their promotional material that the battery has reduced power consumption and a long battery life. But in reality, you only get the same minuscule 1200 mAh battery carried over from the Sage, which was such a problem for Kobo that they developed an entirely new product to combat the issue that expanded the battery via a built-in battery case sold separately. However, that's where the similarities end, the exterior. So let's dive in and look at the Tolino Epos 3, starting with the UI. Comparing this to the Sage, which we will not do in a dedicated video because there's really no point, the UI is completely different. Nothing about this has anything to do with Kobo on the inside. This is a bare experience, and things will start showing up as you expand it, and it won't look like anything until you set up your bookstore. And why we want to show you this now is because it's quite incredible. There are actually 16 different bookstores from 5 different countries you can choose to do business with. That is a lot of selection. If you choose Germany, you get those options. If you choose Italy, you get these options, etc., etc. There's a lot of different bookstores you can shop with. I must say, I don't like the top layout of this unit at all. The entire bar up top, although has the Wi-Fi, the battery, the light, etc., is only the light. If you tap the time, it's the light. If you tap the light, it's the light. I don't like how that is entirely dedicated to that. It's very silly, especially because you have the light button there, which takes you to a different zone. From there, you can do a dark experience, which does a black and white flip, aka dark mode, or you can go into bright, which is normal. You do have the illumination. We'll show you that a little bit later. It is off right now. I just turned it on, but it is off, and we can go back here. So how you get your drop down, which there isn't, is you go over there to the dots, and now there's going to be everything: settings, Wi-Fi, flight mode, etc. If we go over to settings, it has your page turn buttons. You can go left and right. You have a lock for your screen, which is really cool because you can set up some security. You have illumination, you have language. Language is really nice because you get a decent amount of languages. You get 6, which isn't incredibly a lot, but it is pretty good for a European only device. You can't buy this kind of thing on Amazon.com. It's just not possible. They do have Magnification Mode, which is really interesting. You click on that and it's going to beef everything up, and it is kind of the same thing as large print mode on the Kobo, so new but nothing new there at the same time. Sleep mode and energy savings, you can go here and you can go Tolino view, last book read. Factory reset is going to be in advanced settings. Demo mode, if you want to prop this up and just have everything go through a demo. This is almost exclusively reserved for people that own shops that want to showcase this. And you have your battery log. A lot of this is surrounded around the battery because it was a major issue for the Kobo, as we've mentioned at the top of this video. This has no such battery case, and you can't use the battery case from Kobo on this, so unfortunately you're just stuck with this. I gotta point out one major flaw with the overall UI and operating system on this unit, in that a couple things are bothering me. In fact, on the website, Tolino, it states that you get 30 gigs of onboard storage. It's 32, but you only get 30, it says, which around 30 are for your books. But when you plug it in, you only get just shy of 25. So there's actually advertising 5 more gigs than you actually get. Another thing is that when you plug it in, there's all these file folders, like pictures, for example. You can sideload in pictures, but there's no way to access them. Even if you go to My Books, and then you go to the top here and you try to go into something like share or add a collection, kind of cheat it to get into something where you can look at some file formats or organize, there's nothing. You can't actually access any of the folders or files that you put on here outside of just books and PDFs. Because this is a dedicated ebook reader, you only have this reading experience, but you can change the pages 3 different ways. You can swipe, you can tap, or you can use the physical page turn buttons. Physical page turn buttons are quite nice, they protrude quite well, and they line up with this curved lip. It's really nice. Very much appreciate that they've kind of carried over the Kobo hardware, because Kobo did such a good job on that. You can't double tap to do chapter jump like a Barnes & Noble, it just doesn't work, but you can press and hold to do quick nav or fast nav or whatever you want to call it, rapid page turns. It's really nice, and it doesn't refresh all that much until it stops. Sometimes it refreshes, sometimes it does not. When you go here, you can go to your text display, in which you can change the font size, the line spacing, the alignment, the margins, or revert everything back to publisher's default. You can click here and you get 8 different fonts, and you don't get any more. You can load in your own. However, now you can long press on things as well, and that'll open up lookup, translate, write note, and highlight. You can write a note by going here. The keyboard is stacked, which I never really liked. I don't like when they do that. I like a staggered keyboard, which is more indicative of an actual real keyboard. If we long press on something else, could have just done that when I close the box, but we'll just do it all again all the same. We can go to highlight, and that highlights something like that. Outside of that, there's not much you can do. You can star, you can go to the table of contents, and you can do quick nav with the bar down below. I just want to go on record and say that I called this. In the unboxing video, I pointed out that because this was using the same hardware, that you may be able to use the Rakuten Kobo Stylus. And guess what, everybody? You can. Now, there's a positive and a negative. The positive is that you can use it. The negative is it doesn't do anything. For example, if I turn the page like that with my finger, it works. If I use a capacitive pen, which just simulates your fingertip, and I turn the page, it works. Now, if I do the same thing with the Kobo Rakuten Stylus pen, it works with the pen. And you might be saying, well, that's just because it's capacitive and it's simulating a capacitive movement. It's not, because if I take the same pen on my phone screen, it doesn't do anything, but then I use it on the Tolino, and it does communicate, and it does actually do something on the screen. It's hit or miss, and it doesn't work very well, but it does do it. Now, what that says to me is that they left the hardware in there. They left all the receptors and the receivers for the EMR, which is electromagnetic resonance. Now, even if you could use this on the device as is, there's still no palette or UI or operating system in place for you to choose any pens. So it's not like I can take notes because I'm using the pen. I still need something to trigger a pen or a line or a color, and there's nothing user accessible to allow you to use this in anything but just touching the screen. But it's interesting that they actually didn't remove the hardware, they just restricted it via software. That being said, let's throw that away. Enough fun and games. Let's get back to the seriousness. PDFs. 8 inches is decent for PDFs. I wouldn't use this for anything like your educational experience, your work, because if you're trying to read a medical chart on something that is just this slow, look how slow this is. It is so slow. And again, that PDF pinch and zoom engine is horrid. It's horrid. It's so slow and so bad that the screen is just going to shame, because the screen is great. It's really dense. It's so crisp. And then you get into anything that allows you to change it or alter it in any way, even a page turn, and it just comes to a dead standstill. So unless you're looking at something as is, that you don't have to format, that you don't have to reflow, that you don't have to change, like this cover art, that looks good. Anything else, I would steer clear of this for PDFs. We've been reviewing a lot of 6 inches lately, however, this is an 8 inch, and I must say, manga looks great. Look at the size of that, and this is actually indicative of an actual piece of manga from Japan. Real comic books and graphic novels from North America will be those very large kind of A4 paper type of things, the ones you send in, you get graded and stuff like that. Japanese manga is traditionally around this smaller form factor, so it looks fantastic. It actually looks very good. It's a condensed screen. It is a flush screen and bezel, which is always a little bit of a downside when you're dealing with display basically, because you get the experience and the feel that the screen is really far away from you, and it kind of is. There's little shadows around the bezel projecting on to the actual screen. It's not a big thing, but that's our job, to be nitpicky and to be technical about things, and it is a little bit of a downside having a flush screen and bezel. You can pinch and zoom. It's bad, don't do it. It's really slow for PDFs, so you do have to just really be patient or format it properly from the get-go so that you don't have to pinch and zoom. But overall quality, pixel density, contrast, sharpness, it's all top notch. The glow light is quite nice, despite the fact that it turns on weirdly and the way I don't like that top bar. It is still okay. You can change the color temperature from cold to warm, so it'll be blue or orange respectively, and the illumination from bright to dark, which is basically off. You can also do extended brightness, which takes it a step further than what the absolute maximum is, and it will say this will reduce battery life. They've done a bunch of things on here to prevent you from using battery. They turn the Wi-Fi off extremely quick when you're not using it. They have an extended brightness button so that you'll never max it out, because a lot of their advertisements said it has long battery even though it doesn't. So the warm light is quite nice. I wouldn't tell you to worry about glow lights. Glow lights maxed out 2016, 2017. They're pretty much fine no matter what device you buy. Anything in the modern age, 2016, 17 plus, there's going to be no issues with glow light. And that's because they're not using front light anymore, and they're not using backlight. Inside the actual gel layer of lights that they put on, there's LEDs in the side like that, so it shoots into the screen and illuminates outwards. And you'll see this if you look at our teardown video we did on a traditional kind of modern AG reader. But it does illuminate quite drastically. It's a very bright experience even without the extended brightness, but it is very clear. I mean, there's no issues at all. Hardware-wise, it's the exact same as the Kobo Sage. The pen even works, terribly, but it's not meant to work. Software-wise, it's as night and day as it comes. The UI is different, there's no drop-down, and you can deal with 16 different bookstores. The only real downside of the software experience is the PDF engine. Let us know what you all think by leaving a comment down below. For GoodyReader.com, this is Peter.